In the remote wilderness of Montana, a deadly game of cat and mouse is about to begin. The most ruthless Mexican cartel has set its sights on a peaceful stretch of farmland in Coldwater Ridge. They believe they're facing nothing more than an aging rancher, but they couldn't be more mistaken. Eli Granger isn't your average farmer. For 30 years, he was the deadliest Delta Force commander in U.S. military history, leading covert operations that remain classified to this day. His call sign was Shadow, a ghost who struck without warning and disappeared without a trace. This isn't just another war story. It's about how the deadliest cartel in the Western Hemisphere learned the hard way that some old soldiers never lose their edge. When they came for his land, they had no idea they were walking into a trap laid by a master of asymmetric warfare. What follows is the tale of how one man and his elite team dismantled an entire cartel operation in just 5 days. Armed with nothing but a remote farm, decades of combat expertise, and the tactical genius that made him a living legend. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow, I've got something extra special lined up for you. The morning frost crunched beneath Eli Granger's boots as he walked along the property line. Dawn was breaking over the Montana peaks, bathing Coldwater Ridge in hues of amber and gold. His German shepherd, Ghost, trotted beside him, ears pricked and alert as always. At 65, Eli still moved with the smooth grace of a much younger man. His sharp eyes constantly scanned his surroundings, an old habit forged from 3 decades of combat experience. "Something's off, boy," Eli muttered, kneeling to examine fresh tire tracks in the mud. Ghost let out a low, warning growl. The tracks were deep, made by heavy vehicles. They didn't match anything driven by locals that Eli recognized. Just then, a dusty pickup rattled to a stop nearby. Sarah Bennett, his nearest neighbor, climbed out, her face tense with worry. "Eli, thank God you're out here. Did you hear about the Parker family?" Eli stood, brushing the dirt off his jeans. "No. What about them?" "They're gone," Sarah said, her voice hushed. "Just packed up and left last night. No warning, nothing, except this morning. I saw men over at their place, big black SUVs. Guys who definitely don't look like they're from around here," Sarah said, her voice tense. "Cartel?" Eli replied calmly, though his mind was already racing through scenarios, analyzing threats, forming strategies. Sarah nodded, her hands tightening on the steering wheel. "That's what they're saying in town. They've been moving up from the south, buying up properties. And those who don't sell, well, they've got other ways of persuading them." Eli's jaw tightened. "Have they approached you yet?" "No, not yet. But the Miller's place went last week. Same story. Mysterious buyers with too much money to refuse. Folks who stuck around say the cartel's using the farms for distribution routes." "Yeah, that tracks," Eli muttered, his tactical mind already piecing it together. Isolated properties, perfect for cover. Ready-made storage facilities, and lots of vehicle traffic nobody would question. Sarah leaned out her window, lowering her voice. "Eli, these aren't just random criminals. They're organized, well-funded. The sheriff's way out of his league, and nobody else in town is willing to stand up to them." Eli patted the side of her truck. "Don't worry about me, Sarah. I've handled worse. Just be careful. They're targeting this valley methodically. Won't be long before they come knocking on your door." As Sarah drove away, Eli whistled for Ghost and headed toward his barn. Once inside, he strode past the ordinary farm tools and equipment to a spot hidden beneath a false floorboard. He pried it open, revealing a hidden cellar he'd installed when he first bought the property. His friends had once teased him, calling it paranoia. He called it preparation. Eli lifted the floorboard and stared at the cache of gear he had hoped never to use again. Military-grade communications equipment, tactical gear, weapons. Everything he'd need if things went south. And from the looks of it, they were about to. This wouldn't be any different. Eli's phone buzzed, a text from an old contact in law enforcement. "Cartels moving hard and fast. 7 properties taken in the last month. Watch your back." Eli pocketed the phone and headed to his office, pulling out detailed maps of Coldwater Ridge. His land sat at a critical junction, controlling the main road and overlooking 3 key approach routes. No wonder they wanted it. The low hum of engines drew his attention. Through the window, he watched 3 black SUVs crawl past his gate, moving slowly. Too slowly. Reconnaissance. Marking their next target. "Looks like we've got visitors, Ghost," Eli said, scratching his dog's ears. "But they don't know who they're messing with." He spent the rest of the morning on the phone, calling old teammates, men who had fought beside him in places that didn't officially exist, on missions that would never see daylight. "KNX, it's Shadow. Remember that favor you owe me?" A voice crackled on the other end. "Shadow? Damn, it's been a while. How bad is it?" "Cartels moving into the valley, taking farms, setting up distribution networks. They'll be here soon." A low whistle followed. "Sounds rough. Need backup?" "Might not hurt to get the old team together. One last mission. You know we're not as young as we used to be." Eli gave a grim smile. "Neither are they. Call the others. We've got work to do." By afternoon, the plan was in motion. 4 of his former team members were en route. Knox, Raven, Winters, their sniper. Cyrus, Blast, Alvarez, the demo expert. Zen, Ghost, Voss, their comm specialist. And Nash, Kestrel, Nash, their medic. They'd face down warlords, terrorists, and entire armies together. A cartel wouldn't know what hit them. Eli walked the property again as the sun set, studying it with different eyes. Not as a farmer, but as a battlefield commander. Every hill, every tree line, every approach was a potential asset. The cartel thought they were targeting an old man's farm. Instead, they were walking into a kill zone designed by one of the most experienced special ops leaders in history. Ghost barked suddenly, alerting Eli to more vehicles approaching. The same SUVs rolled up to his gate and stopped this time. Eli straightened his back, adjusted his worn baseball cap, and walked out to meet them. He would play the role of a harmless rancher. Let them underestimate him. It was a mistake they wouldn't live to repeat. 5 men emerged, their expensive suits jarringly out of place in the rugged Montana landscape. Eli noted 2 others remaining near the vehicles, hands under jackets, armed. Ghost growled softly, but stopped with a gentle touch from Eli. The man in front led the group. His polished boots crunched on the gravel as he approached, a practiced smile on his face. But his eyes were cold, hard as winter steel. "Mr. Granger, beautiful property you've got here," the man said, extending a hand. Eli shook it, noting the grip, too firm, a telltale attempt at dominance. "Amateur move. What can I do for you, gentlemen?" Eli asked in a friendly, measured tone, even as he cataloged details. 2 men were already edging toward the barn, trying to be subtle. Another lingered by the gate, likely their lookout with military training, though sloppy. They'd grown complacent. "We represent an investment group," the man said smoothly, gesturing to the surrounding valley. "We've been acquiring properties in the area. Expanding operations, you might say. Your land has certain features that interest us." Eli leaned casually against the fence, the picture of relaxation. Inside, however, he was mentally marking fields of fire, noting stances, and identifying ex-military personnel. At least 3 of the men had that bearing. The rest were muscle, thugs used to intimidating civilians. "Not interested in selling," Eli said flatly. "This land's been in my family too long." The man's smile tightened. "Perhaps I wasn't clear. We're prepared to offer significantly above market value, $3 million. Cash. More than generous for a ranch this size." Eli scratched Ghost behind the ears, stalling to observe the men near the barn. They were checking sight lines and defensive positions. Definitely not real estate investors. This was an advanced team scouting for an assault. "Money isn't everything," Eli replied. "Some things aren't for sale." The man's friendly facade cracked slightly as he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Mr. Granger, let me be direct. This valley is changing. Progress, you might say. You can be part of that change and profit from it. Or what?" Eli's voice was calm, though his eyes sharpened as he noted the subtle shift in the men's formation. Standard intimidation positioning. "Or," the man continued smoothly, "you might find the valley becoming less welcoming. Accidents happen. especially to stubborn old men who don't know when to take a good deal. Eli straightened slowly, letting a hint of steel enter his voice. Sounds like a threat? Mr. Rees. The man's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't given his name. That slip was deliberate. Eli wanted them to know he wasn't as clueless as he seemed. Rees recovered quickly, masking his surprise. Simply stating facts. Fighting progress would be unwise. One of the men near the barn called out in Spanish, mentioning security cameras. Eli had let them spot the obvious ones, but kept his real surveillance system well hidden. Rees pulled a business card from his pocket. Think it over. You have 24 hours. After that, the offer becomes less generous. Eli took the card, noting the fake company name. A cartel front, standard practice. I'll sleep on it. See that you do. As Rees turned to leave, he paused and glanced at Ghost. Beautiful dog. German Shepherd, right? Would be a shame if something happened to him. Ghost growled, sensing Eli's tension. Eli's hand stayed gentle on the dog's head, but his voice carried the weight of decades of experience. That would be a very serious mistake. The chill in his tone gave Rees pause, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face before he turned away and headed for the SUVs. For just a moment, the mask slipped, and Eli saw a flicker of genuine surprise on Rees' face. They had expected an easy mark, a simple farmer they could intimidate or buy. Instead, they caught a glimpse of something else, something that tripped alarm bells deep in their instincts. The cartel men retreated to their vehicles, trying to maintain their confident swagger. Eli watched them drive away, already calculating his next moves. His phone buzzed. 11:35, a text from KNX, 4 hours out. Teams assembled. Eli typed back, make it 3. Company's already knocking. Inside the house, he activated his real security system. Hidden cameras embedded in trees covered every approach, while motion sensors monitored the perimeter. All of it fed into the command center in his basement, a relic of years spent planning for worst-case scenarios. Pulling up satellite images of the valley, Eli began marking the cartel's properties. 7 farms had been taken in the past month, each one strategically placed. His land was the missing piece, controlling the main access point to the valley and offering clear lines of sight for miles. His phone rang again. It was Sarah. Her voice was tight with worry. Eli, they were at your place, weren't they? I saw the SUVs. Just a friendly business proposition, Eli replied, casually checking his rifle. Nothing to worry about. Don't lie to me. Miller tried to stand up to them. The next day, his barn burned down. After that, his wife's car crashed on a straight road. No witnesses. Sarah, listen carefully, Eli said, his tone serious. For the next few days, stay with your sister in Missoula. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Eli, what are you planning? Better you don't know. Just trust me. After hanging up, Eli descended into his hidden cellar. The room was exactly as he'd left it, gear meticulously maintained and ready for action. He began methodically inspecting each weapon, muscle memory kicking in as he field-stripped and reassembled his rifles. Ghost whined softly from above, alerting him. Eli paused and listened. Another vehicle was approaching, its engine distinct from the others. He checked his cameras. It was Deputy Mike Hayes from the local sheriff's department. Young and out of his depth, but honest. Eli met him at the gate. Hayes looked nervous, shuffling his feet. Mr. Granger, heard you had some visitors today. Word travels fast. Listen, Hayes continued. About the others, the Millers, the Parkers. We know what's happening, but we can't prove anything. These people, they're connected. Evidence disappears. Witnesses change their stories. Eli nodded slowly. And you're here to tell me to take the deal. Hayes looked ashamed. They already own half the valley. Fighting them is suicide. Appreciate the warning, Deputy, Eli said. But I can handle myself. Hayes hesitated, then gave a respectful nod before driving away. Eli's phone buzzed again with a message from Zan. Intercepted their comms. Full assault planned. They're not waiting 24 hours. Eli smiled grimly. Perfect. Let them come in force. Overconfident enemies made mistakes, and Eli had spent 3 decades learning how to turn those mistakes into opportunities. He had 3 hours until his team arrived. 3 hours to transform his farm into a fortress. The cartel thought they were facing a stubborn old man. By morning, they'd learned their mistake. But by then, it would be far too late. The distant roar of engines echoed through the valley. Eli checked his security feeds and saw 4 vehicles approaching from different directions. His team was using old tactics to avoid being tracked. Knox's black pickup came first, followed by Cyrus in a dusty Jeep. Minutes later, Zan and Nash arrived, their vehicles covered in dirt from backroad driving. Eli met them in the barn, far from prying eyes. 20 years melted away as the old team gathered, their movements still synchronized after all this time. Knox, the sniper, carried his custom rifle case as if it were an extension of himself. Cyrus hauled in crates of explosives disguised as construction equipment. Zan's communications gear looked deceptively civilian, but Eli knew it could crack military-grade encryption. Nash's medical kit was upgraded but familiar. He'd patched them up in worse situations than this. Just like old times, Knox muttered, his voice gruff but warm. Except usually we had government support, Cyrus said, already inspecting the barn structure. Government would just slow us down, he added, running his hands along the barn walls. Nice setup, Eli. Good sight lines, multiple escape routes. You weren't kidding about being ready. Eli spread a detailed map across a workbench and began laying out their strategy. Eli spread the map across the workbench. The cartel's been systematic, taking key properties, establishing distribution routes. This isn't just about drugs. They're setting up a permanent operation. Zan connected his laptop, pulling up intercepted communications. They're professional, ex-military in their ranks, mostly former Mexican special forces. But they're arrogant, sloppy with their security. Their mistake, Nash observed, methodically organizing his medical supplies. How many are we dealing with? Cyrus asked, checking detonator wires. The main force is 30 men, Eli said, pointing to marked locations. 2 separate groups. First team's the muscle. They handle intimidation, arson, and accidents. Second team's their professionals, actual combat experience, proper tactical training. Knox peered through the barn door, studying the terrain. Kill zones everywhere. Perfect natural bottlenecks here, and here. High ground advantage. We can funnel them right where we want them. They'll come in force, Eli warned. No more pretense of being businessmen. They'll bring heavy weapons, armor, maybe even air support. Good, Cyrus grinned, spreading out his demolition plans. Been a while since we had a proper fight. This isn't just about holding them off, Eli said, his voice turning serious. We end this. Permanently. Not just here. We shut down their entire operation in the valley. The team fell silent, the weight of Eli's words settling over them. It was the same voice that had led them through impossible missions, the voice that had brought them home alive when no one thought it possible. Why'd you really come? Eli asked, looking each of them in the eye. You could have stayed retired. Stayed safe. Nash was the first to speak, his medical bag open beside him. Remember Kosovo? That village we found after the militia hit it? Some things you can't walk away from. Some fights need fighting. Cyrus nodded. Cartel took my cousin's farm in Texas. By the time anyone could do anything, it was too late. Not happening again. Not here. Knox just shrugged. You called. That's enough. Zan looked up from his computer. They're moving faster than we thought. Intercepted orders. They're mobilizing tonight. No warning, no negotiation. They're coming to take the farm and send a message. Perfect, Eli said with a grim smile. Let's send them a message of our own. They spent the next hour fortifying key positions. Cyrus rigged the main road with explosives powerful enough to flip an armored vehicle. Knox set up sniper nests at 3 different vantage points, each covering a separate approach. Zan established a command center in Eli's basement, linking their communications and surveillance feeds. Remember Kandahar? Knox asked as they worked. That night raid that went sideways when the whole city lit up? Cyrus chuckled. Never saw so much firepower in my life. Until Eli called an audible, Nash added, chuckling, turned their defenses against them. Still don't know how you knew that would work, Knox said. Simple, Eli replied, loading ammunition. People get predictable when they think they have the advantage. The cartel's no different. They're used to civilians, used to easy victories. They won't be ready for what's coming. Zan's voice crackled over their earpieces. Movement at the Parker place. They're assembling their force. Thermal imaging shows at least 20 vehicles. They're not subtle anymore, Cyrus muttered, setting the final explosive trap. Good, Eli said, his eyes narrowing. Means they're scared. And scared men make mistakes. The sun was setting now, casting long shadows across Coldwater Ridge. Eli stood with his team on the porch, watching the daylight fade. They were no longer young men, but age had given them something else: experience, patience, and the hard-earned wisdom that came from decades of combat. Knox, I want you in the North Tower, Eli ordered. Best sight lines. They won't expect anyone up there. Knox nodded, shouldering his rifle case. The others moved into position as the valley grew dark and silent, waiting for the storm to come. Cyrus, rig the barn for remote detonation. Make it look like a tempting target, Eli ordered. Zan, keep monitoring their comms. The moment they split their forces, we take advantage. Nash, set up a medical station in the basement, but be ready to move. If things get hot, we'll need you mobile. Each man nodded, understanding their roles without the need for further explanation. This wasn't their first impossible mission, just maybe their last. One more thing, Eli added, his voice carrying the weight of command. We're not just defending a farm. We're defending every family in this valley. Every person these bastards would victimize. We do this right. We do it clean. And we do it permanent. The team moved to their positions. Eli checked his weapons one final time, Ghost sitting beside him, alert and ready. In the distance, he saw dust clouds rising as the cartel's convoy assembled. They thought they were preparing to raid an old man's farm. Instead, they were walking into a trap designed by some of the most experienced combat veterans alive. The radio crackled with Zan's voice. First wave moving out. ETA 20 minutes. Copy that, Eli replied, signaling to his team. Remember, let them get comfortable. Let them think they have the advantage. Then we show them what real soldiers can do. The sun dipped behind the Montana mountains, plunging Coldwater Ridge into darkness. But darkness had always been their ally. In the shadows, Eli wasn't a farmer anymore. He was Shadow again, the ghost who hunted other ghosts. And tonight, the cartel was about to learn why that name had once struck fear into far more dangerous men. Moonlight bathed the rugged landscape in silver as Eli watched the convoy through his night vision scope. 20 vehicles moved in formation. Someone had trained them well. Too bad they'd forgotten the first rule of combat: never fight on ground your enemy has prepared. They're splitting up, Zan's voice crackled over the comms. 3 teams, main force coming up the central road. 2 flanking units circling wide. Got eyes on the lead vehicle, Knox reported from his sniper nest. Officer types in the back seat. Want me to take the shot? Negative, Eli responded. Let them get comfortable. Spring the trap on my mark. The convoy's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the road leading to Eli's farm. They moved with confidence, no attempt at stealth. Why bother? They thought they were hunting an old man. Contact in 2 minutes, Cyrus reported. Charges are set. These boys are in for a surprise. Eli watched through his scope as the lead vehicles reached his outer perimeter. Cartel soldiers emerged with military precision, weapons ready, moving in practiced formations. Felix Rees, their leader, stepped out of an armored SUV, directing his men with sharp hand signals. Spread out, Felix ordered in Spanish. I want this place surrounded. No one gets out alive. They're deploying heavy weapons, Zan warned. 0.50 calories on the trucks. RPGs in the second wave. Eli's voice remained calm. Stick to the plan. Let them commit. The cartel advanced steadily, unaware of the defenses lying in wait. 50 meters, 40, 30. Sir, one of Felix's men called out. No movement in the house. Thermals show nothing. Check the barn, Felix barked into his radio. He has to be here somewhere. 3 soldiers approached the barn, weapons raised. Eli counted down in his head. This was the moment that would set the tone. Now, he commanded. Cyrus detonated the first set of charges. The The ground erupted beneath the lead vehicles, launching them into the air in a storm of dirt and metal. Before the dust could settle, Knox's rifle cracked from his hidden position. 2 soldiers dropped before they realized they were under attack. "What the hell?" Felix shouted, diving for cover. "Where's the fire coming from?" The night exploded into chaos. The team's kill zones sprang to life, cutting down cartel soldiers with interlocking fields of fire. Every time they tried to rally, they were met with devastating resistance. 3 trying to flank east, Knox reported calmly, his rifle barking again. "Got them." A series of explosions detonated near the east flank, driving the attackers straight into Nash's line of fire. Eli moved like a shadow through the chaos, years of combat experience guiding each step. He caught 2 soldiers by surprise, disarming one and using him as a shield against the other's fire. Both went down without a sound. "Who are these guys?" A panicked voice screamed over the cartel's radio. "This isn't right. They're too organized. Fall back to the vehicles. Reform defensive positions." Felix's voice barked. "Too late," Eli whispered, triggering another set of charges. Explosions rocked the convoy's retreat path, trapping them in the kill zone. "Technical at your 3 o'clock, Knox called out. "Gunners down, but the driver's still up." Eli rolled behind a tractor as .50 caliber rounds tore through the space where he'd just been. The technical's driver was skilled, keeping the vehicle moving to avoid being pinned, but he'd left his flank exposed. "Cyrus," Eli called over the comms, "time to use that toy you brought." A rocket streaked through the night, striking the technical's engine block. The vehicle flipped, cartwheeling off the road in a fiery explosion. Felix stared in disbelief as his men fell apart around him. He had thought this would be a simple raid. Now he was facing a nightmare. His radio crackled with desperate voices. "Reinforcements. We need reinforcements." But there would be no reinforcements tonight. This was Eli Granger's battlefield, and he had no intention of letting anyone leave it alive. Each man nodded, understanding their roles without the need for further explanation. This wasn't their first impossible mission, just maybe their last. "One more thing," Eli added, his voice carrying the weight of command. "We're not just defending a farm. We're defending every family in this valley. Every person these bastards would victimize. We do this right, we do it clean, and we do it permanent." The team moved to their positions. Eli checked his weapons one final time, Ghost sitting beside him, alert and ready. In the distance, he saw dust clouds rising as the cartel's convoy assembled. They thought they were preparing to raid an old man's farm. Instead, they were walking into a trap designed by some of the most experienced combat veterans alive. The radio crackled with Zan's voice. "First wave moving out. ETA 20 minutes. "Copy that," Eli replied, signaling to his team. "Remember, let them get comfortable. Let them think they have the advantage. Then we show them what real soldiers can do." The sun dipped behind the Montana mountains, plunging Coldwater Ridge into darkness. But darkness had always been their ally. In the shadows, Eli wasn't a farmer anymore. He was Shadow again, the ghost who hunted other ghosts. And tonight, the cartel was about to learn why that name had once struck fear into far more dangerous men. Moonlight bathed the rugged landscape in silver as Eli watched the convoy through his night vision scope. 20 vehicles moved in formation. Someone had trained them well. Too bad they'd forgotten the first rule of combat: never fight on ground your enemy has prepared. "They're splitting up," Zan's voice crackled over the comms. 3 teams, main force coming up the central road. 2 flanking units circling wide. "Got eyes on the lead vehicle," Knox reported from his sniper nest. "Officer types in the back seat. Want me to take the shot?" "Negative," Eli responded. "Let them get comfortable. Spring the trap on my mark." The convoy's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the road leading to Eli's farm. They moved with confidence, no attempt at stealth. Why bother? They thought they were hunting an old man. "Contact in 2 minutes," Cyrus reported. "Charges are set. These boys are in for a surprise." Eli watched through his scope as the lead vehicles reached his outer perimeter. Cartel soldiers emerged with military precision, weapons ready, moving in practiced formations. Felix Rees, their leader, stepped out of an armored SUV, directing his men with sharp hand signals. "Spread out," Felix ordered in Spanish. "I want this place surrounded. No one gets out alive." "They're deploying heavy weapons," Zan warned. "0.50 calories on the trucks. RPGs in the second wave." Eli's voice remained calm. "Stick to the plan. Let them commit." The cartel advanced steadily, unaware of the defenses lying in wait. 50 meters, 40, 30. "Sir," one of Felix's men called out. "No movement in the house. Thermals show nothing." "Check the barn," Felix barked into his radio. "He has to be here somewhere." 3 soldiers approached the barn, weapons raised. Eli counted down in his head. This was the moment that would set the tone. "Now," he commanded. Cyrus detonated the first set of charges. The ground erupted beneath the lead vehicles, launching them into the air in a storm of dirt and metal. Before the dust could settle, Knox's rifle cracked from his hidden position. 2 soldiers dropped before they realized they were under attack. "What the hell?" Felix shouted, diving for cover. "Where's the fire coming from?" The night exploded into chaos. The team's kill zone sprang to life, cutting down cartel soldiers with interlocking fields of fire. Every time they tried to rally, they were met with devastating resistance. 3 trying to flank east, Knox reported calmly, his rifle barking again. "Got them." A series of explosions detonated near the east flank, driving the attackers straight into Nash's line of fire. Eli moved like a shadow through the chaos, years of combat experience guiding each step. He caught 2 soldiers by surprise, disarming one and using him as a shield against the other's fire. Both went down without a sound. "Who are these guys?" A panicked voice screamed over the cartel's radio. "This isn't right. They're too organized. Fall back to the vehicles. Reform defensive positions." Felix's voice barked. "Too late," Eli whispered, triggering another set of charges. Explosions rocked the convoy's retreat path, trapping them in the kill zone. "Technical at your 3 o'clock, Knox called out. "Gunners down, but the driver's still up." Eli rolled behind a tractor as .50 caliber rounds tore through the space where he'd just been. The technical's driver was skilled, keeping the vehicle moving to avoid being pinned, but he'd left his flank exposed. "Cyrus," Eli called over the comms, "time to use that toy you brought." A rocket streaked through the night, striking the technical's engine block. The vehicle flipped, cartwheeling off the road in a fiery explosion. Felix stared in disbelief as his men fell apart around him. He had thought this would be a simple raid. Now he was facing a nightmare. His radio crackled with desperate voices. "Reinforcements. We need reinforcements." But there would be no reinforcements tonight. This was Eli Granger's battlefield, and he had no intention of letting anyone leave it alive. A ball of flame erupted from the technical as the rocket hit its engine block. "Damn, I missed that," Cyrus laughed. "Just like Damascus." "Stay focused," Eli ordered. "They're regrouping." Felix Rees had managed to rally his remaining men behind the wreckage of their vehicles. Despite being caught off guard, they were adapting quickly, a sign of real training. Eli watched their movements closely. "Zan, what's their strength?" he asked, shifting to a new position. 18 still combat effective. They're calling for reinforcements. Second wave is 30 minutes out. "They won't last that long," Knox stated flatly, his rifle cracking as another cartel soldier attempting to flank was dropped. Eli noted Felix's tactical maneuvers. They were setting up a base of fire to create space for reinforcements. Standard doctrine, Eli thought grimly. Time to show them why standard responses get you killed. Cyrus, hit their rally point. Knox, watch for runners. Nash, be ready. Some of them are about to need medical attention. Multiple explosions tore through the cartel's position. Eli moved like a shadow through the chaos, his suppressed rifle taking out threats before they could react. Years of combat experience had taught him the value of economy of motion. No wasted steps, no hesitation. "Contact front," a cartel soldier screamed. "He's inside our perimeter." Eli's response was swift and silent. 3 more enemies went down before they could even turn to face him. "Who are you?" Felix shouted into the darkness. "What kind of farmer fights like this?" "The kind you shouldn't have threatened," Eli replied. his voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. The cartel's assault was falling apart. What had begun as a confident attack was now a desperate fight for survival. Of the original 20 vehicles, 8 were burning, and of the 40 men Felix had brought, fewer than half were still fighting. "Pull back," Felix ordered. "Full retreat. Get back to the rally point." "I don't think so," Eli muttered. "Knox." The sniper's rifle cracked 3 times, and the tires of the remaining vehicles exploded, stranding them in the kill zone. "El Fantasma. He's going to kill us all," Felix whispered, realizing the trap he was in. "El Fantasma should have done his homework," Eli said, stepping out of the shadows behind Felix. "Should have asked why no one's ever successfully attacked this farm." Felix spun, raising his weapon, but Eli was too fast. One strike, precise and efficient, dropped the cartel leader unconscious. His remaining men, demoralized, began to surrender. "Area secure," Knox reported. "No runners." "Nash," Eli directed. "We've got wounded. Stabilize them." Zan approached with his laptop. "Reinforcements are still inbound. 20 minutes out. Bigger force this time. Looks like they're bringing everything." "Good," Eli said, zip-tying Felix's wrists. "Let them come. The first wave was just to remind them of what we can do. The next wave is where we show them who we really are." The team gathered briefly, checking weapons and reloading. The night was still young. This was only the beginning. "Just like old times," Nash said, treating a wounded cartel soldier. "Better," Eli replied, inspecting his ammunition. "This time, we're fighting on our terms, on our ground. And this time, we're finishing it." The aftermath of the first battle left Eli's farm eerily quiet. Burning vehicles cast an orange glow across the Montana night. Cartel soldiers, zip-tied and under Nash's watchful eye, sat in silence. Felix stirred, his eyes blinking as the reality of their defeat set in. 16 prisoners, Nash reported. 3 critical, but stable. The rest are walking wounded. Eli knelt beside Felix, who glared at him with a mix of fear and defiance. "Now then," Eli said quietly, "let's talk about El Fantasma." "Go to hell," Felix spat, switching to Spanish to curse. "Your choice," Eli replied in perfect Spanish, making Felix freeze in shock. "But your reinforcements are walking into my kill zone in less than 15 minutes. Would be a shame if they made the same mistakes you did." Zan approached, intercepted their comms. "El Fantasma himself is coming. He's pissed and bringing in heavy weapons and professional contractors." Felix chuckled darkly. "You're all dead. El Fantasma doesn't leave witnesses. He'll burn this whole valley to get to you." "How many?" Eli asked calmly. "Enough to kill you 10 times over," Felix sneered. "Former Mexican Special Forces, Colombian mercenaries, the cartel's best killers. They'll—" "I meant how many families have you terrorized?" Eli interrupted, his voice hard. "How many farms have you taken? How many accidents have you arranged?" For a moment, Felix faltered. His arrogance cracked, replaced by uncertainty. "Knox," Eli called over the comms. "What do you see?" "Multiple vehicles," Knox's voice crackled. "Different approach vectors. Thermal shows at least 40 troops. Heavy weapons teams spreading out. They won't fall for the same trap twice," Cyrus added. Eli turned back to Felix. "Last chance. Help us end this with minimal bloodshed, or watch more of your men die." "You don't understand," Felix said, his voice dropping. "El Fantasma. He's different. He enjoys the killing. You should run while you can." "I've met men like him before," Eli said, standing. "In places much worse than this. They're all the same in the end." "First elements are reaching the outer perimeter," Zen reported. "They're moving slower, checking for traps." Eli gathered his team. The battlefield was about to come alive again. "They'll come from multiple directions this time," Eli warned, "looking to overwhelm us with numbers and firepower. Knox, I want you mobile. Change positions after every few shots. Cyrus, time for secondary charges. Zan, keep their comms scrambled. Nash, keep the prisoners secure. They're expecting us to be tired, maybe wounded," he added. "Let them think that. Let them get overconfident." A new voice cut through their radios, deep, commanding, speaking Spanish with a cold accent. El Fantasma. Want me to jam it? Zan asked. No, Eli replied with a grim smile. Let them talk. Fear works better when they can share it. Through his night vision, Eli watched the second wave advance. Their tactics were more disciplined, leapfrogging between cover, maintaining intervals. Contact in 2 minutes, Knox reported. Got eyes on their command element. El Fantasmas in the black Suburban. 3 vehicles back, heavily guarded. Cyrus, Eli said, give them something to think about. A series of explosions lit up the night, illuminating the battlefield. The cartel forces paused, realizing too late what they were walking into. A defensive network designed with ruthless precision. Mother of God, a cartel soldier whispered over the open channel. Keep advancing. El Fantasma barked. They're just trying to scare us. Press the attack. Eli's voice cut into their frequency, calm and lethal. 43 minutes ago, I put half your men in body bags or zip ties. That was me being gentle. Last warning. Withdraw or meet the same fate. The advance faltered. Soldiers hesitated. But El Fantasma acted swiftly, shooting one of his own men for stopping. The next one who hesitates dies by my hand, he roared. Forward. Kill them all. Well, Eli sighed, switching back to his team's channel. Can't say we didn't try. Cyrus, got something special for them? Remember that trick in Fallujah? Cyrus replied with a grin. On it. Explosions rocked the battlefield, cutting off escape routes and isolating squads. The cartel's best killers were learning the hard way. They weren't just facing thugs with guns. They were facing soldiers. And the Phantom was leading them. Eli had spent decades perfecting the art of warfare. In the distance, El Fantasma was shouting orders, trying to regain control of a battlefield rapidly unraveling around him. But Eli had fought in places where chaos was a weapon, darkness an ally, and fear a tool to be turned against those who wielded it. Remember, Eli told his team over the comms, let them come to us. Let them think they're winning. Then show them why you don't threaten a special ops commander's home. The real battle was beginning, and this time there would be no holding back. El Fantasma's assault hit like a thunderstorm. Automatic weapons fire lit up the night, heavy caliber rounds tearing through Eli's outer defenses. The cartel's forces moved with professional precision, using suppressive fire to cover their advance. This was no longer the sloppy attack of the first wave. This was coordinated military strategy. Multiple teams, 9 o'clock, Knox reported calmly. His rifle answered with measured, precise shots. They're using fire and maneuver. These aren't cartel thugs anymore. Eli peered through his thermal scope. The cartel soldiers were establishing support positions with methodical efficiency. Former Mexican special forces, he confirmed. See how they move? They've done this before. A rocket streaked through the night, exploding against the side of the barn. The structure held. It had been reinforced exactly for this scenario. But the cartel's message was clear. They're probing our defenses, Cyrus called out. Looking for weak points. Want me to discourage them? Not yet, Eli replied. Let them commit more forces. El Fantasma's voice boomed across the battlefield. You cannot hide forever. We will burn everything you have. Eli responded with a precisely placed shot that shattered the cartel leader's spotlight. Darkness reclaimed the field. Darkness his team had trained in for decades. 3-man team trying to flank east, Knox reported. I see them, Eli said. Cyrus, give them something to think about. A series of charges detonated in the flanking team's path, not to kill but to corral them. Disoriented, the soldiers stumbled straight into Nash's line of fire. His suppressed MP5 spoke 3 times, dropping each target in swift succession. They're coordinating better now, Zin warned over the comms. Multiple encrypted channels. These guys are professionals. Eli moved like a shadow across his property, every step calculated. 2 cartel soldiers were setting up a machine gun nest in a prime firing position. They never saw him coming. One went down to a throat strike. The other to a swift takedown he'd perfected in hand-to-hand combat training. Command vehicle on the move, Knox reported. El Fantasma is repositioning. Strong security detail. Let him, Eli said. He's looking for a pattern. Let's give him one. The battle entered a new phase. El Fantasma's men were good, well-trained in urban combat, but Eli's team had written the book on this type of warfare. Every time the cartel thought they'd found an advantage, it turned into a trap. RPG team at 2 o'clock, Zan shouted. Eli rolled behind cover as rockets screamed overhead. The explosions were massive, professional-grade munitions, not black market junk. Knox, priority target. Take out those RPGs, Eli ordered. Bit busy, Knox grunted. Got 3 teams trying to flank me. Cyrus, on it, Eli directed. Another controlled blast lit up the night. The RPG team was scattered, their weapons sent flying but left alive. Precision demolition work only achievable through decades of experience. Frustration mounted in El Fantasma. His men were dying, being captured, or losing ground at every turn. Every advance was met with resistance from angles they hadn't anticipated. Push forward, he roared. There are only 5 of them. We have the numbers. Numbers don't mean much against ghosts. Eli's voice cut through their channel. How many men are you willing to lose tonight? A burst of automatic fire answered, but Eli had already ghosted to a new position. West sector's getting heavy, Nash reported. They're making a serious push. That's their feint, Eli replied. Knox, watch the east. That's where the real attack's coming. Sure enough, the cartel's best operators moved silently through the eastern approach. Knox confirmed quietly, 12-man elite team. These are their best. Good, Eli said. Cyrus, Nash, shift east. Knox, hold your fire until my mark. Let's show them what real professionals can do. The elite cartel team advanced with impressive skill, leapfrogging between cover, maintaining perfect spacing. They were halfway to their objective when Eli's trap sprung. Cyrus's charges detonated, disorienting but not lethal. As the cartel operators struggled to adjust their night vision, Knox opened fire from his elevated position. Every shot was surgical, knees and shoulders disabled rather than fatal. Clear them up, Eli ordered. Nash moved swiftly, securing the wounded. Who are you people? El Fantasma's voice crackled over the radio, filled with barely contained rage. You really should have done your research, Eli replied. Asked why no one's ever successfully attacked this farm. A new sound cut through the night, helicopter rotors. Boss, they're bringing in air support, Zan warned. Right on schedule, Eli said, smiling grimly. Cyrus? Oh yeah, Cyrus replied. Got something special for choppers. Just say when. The helicopter swept low, its spotlight slicing through the darkness. The door gunner opened up with a minigun, stitching a line of destruction across the property. Now, Eli commanded. Cyrus triggered a specialized charge, a massive flashbang designed for aircraft. The pilot, momentarily blinded, yanked the stick back. The sudden movement threw off the gunner's aim. Knox, Eli called out. The sniper's rifle cracked once, shattering the helicopter's spotlight. 2 more shots disabled the minigun. You can land safely, Eli broadcast over the cartel's channel, or you can crash. Your choice. The helicopter retreated, its pilot choosing survival over valor. On the ground, El Fantasma's desperation grew. His elite team was down, his air support driven off, and his forces were losing cohesion. How many more men are you willing to sacrifice? Eli asked over the radio. How many bodies before you realize you've made a mistake? The response was immediate, a massive barrage of gunfire. But Eli had already moved again. 20 years ago, they had called him Phantom because he could strike anywhere and vanish before the enemy could respond. Tonight, he was reminding them why. Burn everything. El Fantasma shouted, his voice filled with fury. Burn it all to the ground. Incendiary rounds and thermite grenades lit up the battlefield. Fires raged across the property, turning it into a hellscape of flame and smoke. They're getting desperate, Knox observed. Relocating as fire consumed his sniper nest. Desperate men are unpredictable, Eli warned. Zan, what are you seeing? They've split into 3 groups. Main force still pushing center, but their best units are flanking through the burning zones. A massive explosion rocked the farmhouse as satchel charges detonated against the outer walls. The reinforced structure held, but the message was clear. They were done probing and ready to destroy everything. Nash, Eli called. We've got wounded to evacuate. These fires are getting too close. Got it, Nash replied. Knox, cover the east. Cyrus, buy us time. Everyone else, fall back to position 3. We're not losing anyone tonight. Got something special saved for this, Cyrus said grimly. Might want to cover your eyes. Blinding magnesium flares erupted across the property, disorienting the attackers. In the confusion, Eli's team executed a fighting withdrawal, moving prisoners and wounded to a fortified storm cellar. They're pushing hard on the west side, Knox reported, his rifle cracking steadily. This is their elite death squad. Los Fantasmas, Eli confirmed. Their personal kill team. Ex-Mexican Special Forces. They're good. Not good enough, Knox replied, punctuating his words with another precise shot.